everyone, and welcome to All My Best Friends Are Digital, your podcast about video games and the stories they tell. I am, as ever, Mark Bigney. I will be one of your co-hosts. Hello. Hello also to Caitlin Bailey, our other co-host. How are you doing, Caitlin?
Hello, I am fantastic.
I already said hello. It's okay. You didn't have to say hello, but it's all right. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about what we've been playing lately. We're going to be talking about Castlevania Symphony of the Night, a request of our patrons in our retro game segment, GOOF. We're then going to talk about our feature game, which is Hollow Knight, just so we can talk about the same game twice.
Yeah.
And then we are going to close things out with some shameless hyping of upcoming titles, what we here at MFAD call Shout, because we love ourselves the acronyms. So, Caitlin, what have you been playing lately?
I have been playing far too much Coral Island. As I shouted out a few episodes ago, I was really excited to play Coral Island because their multiplayer patch came out. So I started a multiplayer game with a friend, actually the same friend that I played Luma Island and Faith Farm with. She's apparently my cozy gaming go-to. But anyway, Coral Island doesn't significantly change the farming game formula that started back with the original Harvest Moon in '96, and that was later perfected by Stardew Valley, if I do say so myself. But it does a lot of things, and it does them all pretty well. I'm probably going to ramble a lot, so Mark's probably going to have to cut like 15 minutes of me babbling about Coral Island, but I'm going to do my best here.
I would sooner die than remove any one of your pearls of wisdom about Coral Island, Caitlin. I want to hear all about Coral Island. I remain fascinated by this structure because it's basically like fighting games, I think, in that there was a definitive title that kind of solidified most of the contours.
Yeah.
And we've been spending many years slowly iterating on it, very slowly, and yet nonetheless the devotees are willing to sink endless hours into the same thing yet again. And I say this with no judgment. Am I wrong?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, even when I started playing Coral Island in the last week, at first I was like, yeah, this is a farming game. I've done this many times before. And then all of a sudden, it hooked me. And I don't know why. I don't know what did it. But I kept doing that, like, oh, I'll just play for one more in-game day. Oh, but I really want to do that next thing, so I'll play for one more. And then it's, 12:30 a.m. and I have to go to work the next day, and it's a whole thing.
Do you mean have to go to work in real life or have to go to work in Coral Island? It gets confusing.
Both, honestly. Both.
So what's the setup for Coral Island? Are you left a section of the island from your dead grandpa, or do they decide to vary the theme a little bit? Or are you in hock to a mendacious marsupial?
I'm trying to recall. I don't 100% know. I believe that this farm was left to you. I believe that you used to be like a city person and you've moved from the city. You don't know anything about farming, but you're going to give it your best shot.
Is it a Hallmark movie or is it a cozy game?
When you arrive, the island is like not in great shape. Apparently there was an oil spill in past years, which caused this weird, like, kind of fantasy element to occur where there's all these black oily vines that are like all over different parts of the island, especially the beach, and also under the water all around the island, which is weird. I don't really know what the deal is with the black vines, other than that they're bad and somehow related to this oil spill. So apparently when that happened, the museum, which used to be like, the glory of the island, ended up having to sell pretty much their entire collection in order to pay for cleanup efforts.
Are you serious? Do you have to build up the island's museum?
Yes, of course you do.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that literally what you... Oh no, it's the visitor center in Stardew Valley. I'm sorry, I must be getting confused.
Yeah, Animal Crossing does the whole museum thing.
I'm getting my wires crossed here. Okay. Okay. It's weird that you say, with a sort of a scowl of incomprehension about the supernatural elements in Coral Island. It's important to remember, as I always do, if you scratch just beneath the surface of Stardew Valley, there is this gaping chasm of absurdity and weirdness, and sometimes it gets dark. Need I remind you about the whole child abandonment minigame that opens up? Like, Stardew Valley is so weird. I mean, I love it structurally. I love hearing about Stardew Valley. So please, continue.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the downsides, because there's only 2.5 of them, and I have them right here. So the default movement speed is positively sluggish. It is so slow. I'm walking around in the farm, and it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look that slow, but it feels really slow when you have to go all over the island and you haven't unlocked any teleports yet, terrible. A friend of mine who has been playing, who I think probably even started in early access, I don't even know, but regardless, she's put in probably 100+ hours into Coral Island. She told me that there is a mod available in Nexus Mods that will increase your movement speed. So I got that, and I love it so much. It is so good. It trivializes the insect catching a little bit because you can move a lot faster, and, you know, there's like this, oh, I'm a scared butterfly, like, meter that kind of goes up as you approach, and obviously if you're moving significantly faster, you're able to get to the bug before that thing fills up and the bug flies away. But anyway, I don't care. Movement speed is worth it. I will do. It's so worth it. The other thing is that a lot of the clothing just looks bad on your character. The NPCs look so good. They're all dressed beautifully. They have different outfits for all the different seasons. They look wonderful. But there's back items such as backpacks, and when you go to try it on in the store, you can literally see the backpacks hovering like 3 inches above your shoulders. The hats, as always in games, for some reason, people just, like, why do you add hats to your game when you also allow people to choose their hairstyle, and then as soon as you put a hat on that hairstyle, all of a sudden all their hair kind of like disappears or does something weird? Hats look bad. Glasses also kind of look bad. Skirts look weird. So anyway, it can take a while. I know, I have so many complaints. It can take a while to craft what you feel is a nice outfit for your main character, but that's okay. And then finally, the half of the 2.5 bad things. It's not entirely a bad thing. It's probably more of a neutral. But in a lot of these farming sim games, you can develop relationships with other people. Sometimes they're romantic, sometimes they're platonic.
I see that the 1.2 patch introduces romance.
Yes, so it's actually romance overhaul. Apparently there was already romance before this, but they made it a lot more involved. There's also, I don't know anything about this yet because I have not developed my romantic relationship to this point, but there is a woohoo toggle in the settings.
A woohoo toggle.
I assume that they're taking that terminology from The Sims. But,
oh, all right, sure.
Yeah. But anyway, you can develop all these relationships, and in a lot of these farming sim games, there's like this mysterious time and place where you'll be able to stumble upon some kind of relationship event. And either you have to look it up, or you have to just walk into it. Coral Island finally is like, hey, we know that you just look up all of this stuff on the internet. So we're going to have a relationships tab in the game, and it's going to tell you exactly where and between what hours you can trigger this event. It's like brilliant.
Sweet.
Love that. So good. But then the downside is it seems really easy to trigger these events. And I'm just minding my own business, trying to go to the bar to go turn in a quest or, you know, give a flower to the guy I have a crush on. And all of a sudden I'm in an event. And the event takes 2 in-game hours. And then the dude that I was going there to visit has already left. And it really... It breaks up the flow a little bit. Like, I almost wish that when I walked in, it'd be like, hey, do you want to watch this event? Like, maybe I have to go talk to that person to trigger it. But no.
Right.
It just starts. And it's like, okay, I guess we're doing this now.
So, to paraphrase the poet laureate Kendrick Lamar, you hate the way they walk, you hate the way they talk, you hate the way they dress.
They talk so much. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I do want to do a quick relationship side tangent. In one of the old Harvest Moon games, there was this sweet granny that you could befriend. But if you did, she died.
She survived if you didn't befriend her.
If you never spoke to her, she would just live forever. But if you do befriend her, eventually she dies. It's like scared me off of befriending old ladies in farm games. So thanks, Harvest Moon.
Have you considered the possibility that in Harvest Moon the main character was secretly a serial killer?
You know, it's possible. Okay, so the good. The character art is absolutely lovely. There's a lot of small but really nice touches. I already mentioned this, but the characters change their outfits for different seasons. They also all have beach outfits, so you can see, you know, if your person wears like a Speedo or a wetsuit or whatever when they're down at the beach.
Yeah, this is important because I assume you do not want to romance a man who wears a Speedo.
Very important, yeah. You can initiate hangouts with characters. I believe this is a part of the 1.2 patch. but it lets you improve your relationship and you just get to go do something nice. And you can do that, in a friend way or in a dating way. And I think that's really cool. There's tons of locations all over the island where you can choose to hang out, and you can go stargaze or get tacos or whatever. And it's a cute idea. And I think that other farming sims should probably pick this up at some point. Way less grindy than Luma Island. Luma Island was so grindy. It was like painfully grindy. Also, I think a bit less grindy than Faith Farm, which I like. Coral Island, as far as like content, feels really good.
You're really selling this.
Yeah, and the other thing that I love is you can slow down the time to 50% of normal if you want. So you can actually take your time more. You don't have to feel rushed getting through the day, because eventually, I don't know exactly what time the day rolls over, but if you are up past a certain time, you will faint, and then, the doctor will send you a bill because you get picked up and taken to their doctor's office.
Instead of in the traditional way being abducted by Walmart and billed by them. Okay, I have 2 questions for someone who's never been involved in these games in a serious way, leading up to a third. Question the first, how's inventory management?
So, inventory management is pretty similar to some of the other farm games I've tried. You start off with a painfully small bag, which I think has like 20 slots. And then you can pay for 2 bag upgrades. So you can upgrade to 30 slots and then to 40 slots. You can have as many containers as you want on your farm or in your house. Storing stuff is really easy. There's like a 1-button store button that you can just press, and anything in your bags will go into stacks in the crate or the box.
Sure, but how much time do you spend moving things from one box to another box? I've seen people play Stardew Valley near the end game.
Yeah.
And it's just a row of boxes, and it's all about, I need to color code them so I can try to remember what's in what, but sometimes I forget, and it's like, where did I put that star fruit, etc., etc.
I mean, there's probably a decent amount of that. One of the nice touches that Coral Island has is if you want to craft something, as long as it's in one of your storage containers on the farm, you can craft it. You don't have to get stuff out in order to be able to do that.
Beautiful.
So
I love it when games do that.
That's really nice. Because, it is frustrating to be like, okay, I have to go to 3 different crates to grab 2 items out of each one, and then I can finally craft this thing. It's like, no.
Yeah.
You can just craft it.
Question the second. How much time do you spend just every day doing a circuit of your farm, watering and petting things?
So there is some automation type things, of which I've unlocked some. So I have sprinklers that automatically water everything on my farm, because watering takes forever and it sucks. There's also machines you can buy that will pet all of your animals for you, collect. I know that feels bad, but machines that will pet all the animals, that will also harvest all the items from the animals. So I assume it'll milk the cows and gather eggs. I haven't been able to unlock any of those yet. Actually, I have been able to. I just haven't spent the time doing it. But as far as in-game time, I can't speak to real-life time because I've never actually timed it. But for in-game time, after slowing down the time to, I think, 80% of normal, that was what felt like a good, happy medium for me. I'm able to get everything done by like 8:30 a.m. and then all of the stores generally open around 9 a.m. So that timing worked out really well for me. So it doesn't feel as bad as like Fae Farm, where I seem to recall the sprinklers were much more expensive and difficult to deal with than I expected. And therefore I would just spend so much time watering all of my stupid plants. It just took forever. It was not fun.
All right, then this leads me to my third question, which is very, very specific.
Yes.
Given what you know about me, and given that I also plan someday in the future to return to both Spiritfarer and possibly to No Man's Sky,
yes,
both of whom involve a non-trivial amount of resource gathering and crafty and agriculture adjacent things, is Coral Island something I should try? Because mostly I see people playing Stardew Valley and it looks like work.
Yeah. I think that if it looks like work... Oh, okay. It does look like work. I don't know. I would generally think probably not your jam.
Okay.
Because it does look like work, but for some reason it activates the fun centers of my brain. So I can't explain that.
Oh, no shade on people who enjoy this.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I'm not saying it's like, oh, how does anyone enjoy this? It's clearly work. I'm just saying that for me, I look at primarily the inventory management and the watering of plants. And it's just like, yeah, like I enjoy going through checklists when playing games all the time.
Yeah.
But this particular checklist of making sure that I water all the rutabagas or whatever just doesn't delight me the way that it delights so many other people.
Totally get that. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of automation things, but it does take a little while for you to get to the point where you can automate. And honestly, like, I'm not huge on automation. Like, I could see myself automating petting the animals, and then I don't have to go into the barn to pet the animals every day. But they also have this automation, like automated crates or storage containers that can, like, move stuff around, and that makes my brain hurt a little bit, and I don't know if I'd be into that. Like, I tried Oxygen Not Included a while back, and it's like, it was fun to me up to a point, and then it's like, okay, and now I have to go consult the internet for what the best, self-contained oxygen generator is, because I'm not going to think of that with my own, like, sad little brain. There's one more thing I want to say about Coral Island, which is that, just like Stardew Valley, there is a corporate villain. It is the Pufferfish Corporation, and they are an oil company.
But pufferfish are adorable.
I completely agree. I don't know why they decided to call themselves the Pufferfish Corporation.
Well, no, in universe, obviously a corporation would name itself after something adorable. What I mean is that the devs naming the evil corporation. Pufferfish. Wow, you're deep into the Coral Island kayfabe. You're too far gone now.
But they're hilariously mustache-twirling evil to the point where their local leader at one point says, like, oh yeah, the Coral Island, like the local museum, what we're going to do is we are going to shut it down, and we're going to turn it into storage for oil barrels. And it's like, and you're somehow shocked that the residents of this island are not into your proposal. Okay, but yeah, that's it. I'm done spewing information about Coral Island for now.
It sounds like it's a really successful iteration of the genre, frankly.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with it.
Good. Well, I, meanwhile, have been chasing the dragon of the next roguelite that I want to play after having mostly burned through the Rogue Prince of Persia at record pace because of how diligently I was playing it. And I stumbled upon Mortal Sin, which just came out of early access. It had been on my wish list. There's a number of early access games that I have flagged on my wish list on Steam, but I'm not going to pay attention to them until they graduate into being real games.
Right. Because
life is too short and unfinished games are the pits. Mentioning no Hades in particular. So this is actually a one-person show. This was designed by Nikita Todorovic and just recently came out of early access, as I said. And it is a first-person melee-focused roguelite. And it has a very distinctive visual style. It looks a little bit like a Dayglow version of Halls of Torment. So imagine kind of sort of the blocky, vaguely CG-ish polygons of, say, Diablo 1, but kind of jazzed up, a little bit better. I mean, they're not cutting-edge graphics, but they don't look as clumsy and blocky as they did back then. It looked like contemporary indie 3D kind of quality, but with the color palette dialed up in that there's much, much more color saturation and much more brighter colors. Now, this, of course, is a function of a choice. You can actually choose to have one of two different styles, but the sort of default recommended style is very kind of bright. And if you see any of the trailers on Steam, it is with that color palette that they... It's not recommended, but it's kind of the default, so I kind of assumed it was the recommended one. You can make things look more subdued if you want. And then on a spectrum, again, I say on a spectrum, it gets a little bit closer to like Obra Dinn kind of visuals, but only by a couple of steps. And since you're starting with pretty bright, you're not getting very close, but nonetheless, I got a little bit of an Obra Dinn vibe from the other visual style.
I find that so funny just because of how salty so many people on the internet became when some of the first screenshots, I think from Diablo 3, came out ages ago, and people were like, oh my gosh, you're turning this into My Little Pony. It's too bright. It needs to be darker.
I cannot speak to what Blizzard people want out of the Blizzard products. That particular church is one in which I never took communion, so yes. I'm not in a position to comment. At any rate, I was impressed by the promise of a whole bunch of different upgrades in Mortal Sin, and indeed there are a lot of different upgrades. That's one of my common critiques of a lot of roguelites. However, I can just skip right to the end and say I did not enjoy Mortal Sin at all. One of the things that I found very, very painful was that everything is very floaty. Like, the hits don't feel like they have any impact, either on offense or on defense. If you're not paying active attention to your life bar in the corner of the screen, it's very difficult to tell when you're being hit. Normally, in a lot of mob-based games of this nature, you're often dealing with bullet heaven games, a la the Survivors games, and then you have a top-down view and you can see what's going on. But from a first-person perspective, especially when monsters are spawning all over the place and there are traps all the time, I don't mean to imply that the enemy density is akin to a Survivors game, but there is a fair amount of opposition you're going to be facing, and you don't really have a good sense of what's going on. At least I never did. I played for quite some time, and I never really got a sense of when I was being hit by what. You know, there's just red all over the place because you're dismembering a lot of dudes. Like, this is a very gore-heavy, dismemberment-focused game. And when the notification that you're being hit is indeed red on the screen, well, let me tell you, there's always red on the screen all over the place. It doesn't have that faux camera film effect of, like, blood dripping down on an imagined lens. It's just there's red everywhere. Like, whether or not you're decapitating various pseudo-zombie type things. Anyway, so I never really got a sense of what was going on. And the hits felt too floaty, as I said, like your weapons just pass through enemies and do damage and their limbs go flying. So I felt very detached, very alienated from what was going on the screen, and I couldn't really get into it. Like, when I was doing well, I didn't have a good sense of why. When I was doing poorly, I didn't have a good sense of why. And on top of that, the combat is focused on a combo system, which by itself is fine. Combos can be fun. But frequently in games, if the pace gets sufficiently hectic and you're expected to perform a 6-hit combo string based on 3 different buttons in variation, it is very, very easy to just default to spamming the attack button.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is, as I said, I was feeling a little bit detached from what was going on, so that already primed me for being like, yeah, whatever, just spam the attack button. But also, it's the case that there's just a whole bunch of weird different combos, and the game does a very poor job of explaining what any of them do. They give them elaborate names, like, this is the Dragon Slayer. It's like, okay, what does it do? Why is this combo? Why is hitting kick, attack, dash, attack special better than just hitting attack an equal number of times?
Yeah.
What's going on here? And the game doesn't do that, which is exacerbated by the fact that the interface is very, very, very poor. Like, for example, hitting down on the direction pad opens up a very specific menu. And so the number of times when I opened that menu just trying to scroll through other menus, very frequently. Because it's not uncommon to revert back to the D-pad when you're scrolling through menus. I'm not the only one who does this. It's a very common thing. And so most games, especially AAA games, when navigating through menus, allow you to use either the joystick or the D-pad. But in this case, no. Hitting down on the D-pad opens a specific sub-menu, and so that's what I saw, and I'd back out of that, and then we backed out from every menu that I'd accessed up to that point, and so it's just a little bit of a pain. Whatever, that I'm a little bit more forgiving of. As I say, this was a one-man show designed, developed, produced, and published by a single person. Okay, fine, it's not going to feel smooth. I'm not going to insist on a great slick UI, but what I do want is for the fundamental combat to feel good, and it did not feel good to me at all. So I liked the upgrades, even though the systems were not particularly well explained. I liked the meta progression, even though I didn't get a particularly big sense of what the meta progression looked like. Mm-hmm. But the moment-to-moment combat, both by virtue of the fact that nothing felt weighty, it all felt very floaty and removed, and the fact that the combo system I found kind of unintuitive and unenjoyable, means that I am not going back to Mortal Sin, and unfortunately I am on the lookout for the next roguelite to occupy my time, which is why I'm flirting with the idea of animal husbandry and or ecology. I have to say, I like it's so bad that I was tempted to go through the Steam refund process. I was there thinking like, oh, do I really want to? And then I thought, no, I'll play it a little bit more. I'll give it a little bit more rope to see if it gets better. And also, when it's a single person developer, I'm a little bit less inclined to then take my money back. I don't know. I'm not trying to make it out that this was some act of charity or anything.
Oh, but yeah.
Mortal Sin gave me a very bad early impression, and it did not get better as I spent more time with it. So I confess I'm very disappointed, and it's very much at odds with the common consensus of a lot of people who play Mortal Sin. Maybe, as per usual, I just need to get good, but as it is, didn't have a good time.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down, but what are the things that help make combat not feel floaty? Is it like, your weapon appears to have some resistance when you're actually hitting a thing?
Yeah, that's among it. I mean, so we talked about this in the context of Elder Scrolls games, right?
Yes.
If you compare early Elder Scrolls games to later Elder Scrolls games, all of which have first-person combat, then there's a world of difference between my having a stock animation of waving a sword around and number go down on the part of my enemy, and so a really well done game, especially if it's a big, heavy weapon, right? And this isn't even just true of first-person games. Imagine how combat feels in Night Rain, for example, right? The animation happens, the enemy has a reaction animation, there is an appropriately localized set of reactions, both in the terms of sound, maybe some haptic feedback, your animations, the enemy animations, and so forth, really giving you the impression that you have even just landed. I mean, this is true of fighting games as well.
Yeah.
This is true of a lot of unsatisfying fighting games, which have I hit? Have I been hit? It's tough to tell. And this doesn't mean that every weapon has to have a huge wind-up, or that everybody needs to be sent reeling after a parry, or everyone has to get stun-locked by every single blow. But there's just, people know satisfying combat when they feel it, and just giving articulation to it, it's typically summarized by the notion of attacks having a weight.
Yeah.
And that's resonant for me anyway. And so if you just compare Morrowind to Skyrim, there's a tremendous difference in terms of how weighty the combat feels in both instances. And this is independent of how fast the attacks are, broadly speaking. Does that make any sense?
It does. Thank you.
So that's Mortal Sin and my sadness. We now move on to our gaming opinions on old school funware, what we call GOOF. We're going to be talking about Castlevania Symphony of the Night. This was voted on by our patrons. It was initially released by Konami in 1997. It is the Castlevania game of a series of many more than that. But it is the direct sequel to Rondo of Blood, in that, indeed, some of the events of Rondo of Blood are kind of sort of retold at the beginning of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It's a whole thing. Anyway, Caitlin had never played Castlevania Symphony of the Night, whereas I played it back in the day in the original PlayStation release. It almost didn't get released because legend has it that Sony of America especially, but Sony of Japan as well, were very reluctant to have 2D titles on the PlayStation because 3D was very much their thing. Now, that might account for some of the superfluous, perfunctory 3D effects that you find here and there in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but mostly it's a 2D action platformer with, you guessed it, Metroidvania elements. It's a bit strange to call it that because prior to 97, prior to Symphony of the Night, Castlevania games weren't really Metroidvania games. They were a little bit more linear, straightforward, not so much with the exploration, not so much with the additional movement powers unlocking new areas of the map. Although Castlevania 2 had some of that. Anyway, it was very much with 94's Super Metroid and 97's Castlevania Symphony of the Night that we've solidified the formula. And indeed, the core formula has not altered very much in the almost 30 years since, which is quite surprising. Anyway, Caitlin, why don't you give us your impression about what one does in Castlevania Symphony of the Night?
First, Mark, I would like to ask you, what is a man?
It's a miserable pile of secrets.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that infamous screenshot / exchange occurred in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I was delighted. The voice acting is incredible.
So you knew the meme, you just didn't know where it came from?
I didn't know specifically. I knew it was Castlevania, or at least I believed it was Castlevania, but I did not know which Castlevania game it was.
Okay. What I find striking about the voice acting, so the writing is universally terrible, and the voice acting is universally terrible, but the thing is, it's not terrible the same way that a lot of mid-90s PlayStation titles were. Like, you go back to, Resident Evil 1, and it really is the case that they grabbed Ted from accounting and they recorded him doing some voice lines.
Yeah.
It's just classic, bad, I don't know what I'm doing acting. It has its own set of charms. The acting in Castlevania Symphony of the Night is shockingly consistent in that it's a novel kind of bad. It's not bad the same way that Ted from Accounting does it.
Yeah.
Like, I love Alucard's voice. It's hilariously awful. He speaks in this deep, rich, sonorous, slow tone with the incredibly bad writing. It's great.
So great. So my experience with Castlevania Symphony of the Night is that you die a lot. It's been a long time since I felt quite this bad at video games.
Really?
Yes. There's a plant somewhere in one of the early areas that spits out seeds at you, and they turn you into stone. I must have gotten hit by one of those seeds like 25 times in a row. And I wish I were exaggerating. I mean, I'm pretty sure I am exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating as much as you think I am. It was embarrassing. And yes, I did eventually figure out how to get past them. I don't know. Castlevania is really interesting, and I'm sure I'll actually go into this when we talk about Hollow Knight, but playing Castlevania and Hollow Knight in the same week was also really interesting, because it's like, okay, here, 2 Metroidvanias, 20 years apart. Go.
It was super trippy. The juxtaposition was quite striking.
I just jumped into that stupid seed like 100 times after, trying to do other things. It was really bad. It was straight up pathetic. At this point, I've gone through that corridor many times and have managed to only get turned into stone once or twice. Because no, I can't get through there without getting hit. But it is what it is. It's okay. I can move on from the plant.
One thing I always forget when going back to one of the old Castlevania games is that the games of roughly this era, so Symphony of the Night, the Game Boy Advance games, the DS games, which is mostly the Castlevanias I play, they have this rogues gallery. They have this set of enemies that they reuse pretty much every time, more or less identically, even though they keep re-rendering them in different graphics engines. And they're super weird. They're super diverse. There are a whole bunch of different mythologies just lumped in together that make no sense whatsoever. Like, there's more thematic mythological coherence in a Persona game than there is in a Castlevania game, for crying out loud, and that's saying something. But it's kind of awesome. They're all like, they have these over-elaborate death animations sometimes. Sometimes there's this weirdly, lavishly rendered enemy that exists only in one room and is a pushover, but it just flows so beautifully. You hit it once, it animates in a wonderful way, and it explodes in a cascade of cinders, and like, oh, that was super extra. I wonder when I'll see that again, to which the answer is never. Again, because you're never going in that room ever again. And I kind of appreciate that. I really like the rogues gallery of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, except, which relates to you're talking about the seeds, those Medusa heads can just die, all of them. Because the whole being turned to stone thing is not cool, and I've commented about this in other games. The Mega Man games and the Castlevania games are addicted to stun locks, and they need to get over it hard. Not okay, not fun.
Oh, God. Yeah, there were 2 particular enemies that stood out to me in the span of Castlevania Symphony of the Night that I played. One of them was one of the zombies from, I think, the very first or second screen, the bloody zombies, where you hit them twice and you literally cut them in half and then blood spurting, and I was like, what is going on?
It's so extra, I love it.
And then the weird lizard chimera ladies from actually the same corridor as the evil flowers, that like the woman torso is attached to the tail of this weird lizard thing. And then when it dies, she has to turn to show you her butt, and then she dies, and it's a lot.
Did you, however, play far enough to get to turn into Dog Friend?
I believe that is the next thing that I'm supposed to unlock. I haven't gotten there. So according to the save file, I only have just over an hour in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. According to the amount of time that I have spent going through various rooms, only to not find a new save room and then die, I've played a lot more Symphony of the Night.
Yes, the save file only tells a fraction of the story, because... Yeah, so that's one of the characteristic elements of Metroidvanias, and that is the backtracking.
Yeah.
To its credit, I guess this is... I don't even know if this is to its credit. This is a double-edged sword. It's not... It seldom gets super boring, because it's trying to kill you all the time. It gets repetitive because you've been there.
Yeah.
And it gets frustrating because you might die from getting to point A to point B, just to remind yourself as to whether or not your new movement ability allows you to open up that portion of the map.
Yes.
Right? But I think all told, it's better to be a little bit too difficult than a little bit too easy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that it couldn't be rebalanced, but it is definitely a striking feature of Symphony of the Night, that's for sure.
Like I said, I only have about an hour, a little over an hour in as far as the save file goes.
In terms of linear progress, yes.
Yes. I really had wanted to be able to transform into Wolfriend, but I couldn't find it. That said, after this amount of time, despite it being quite challenging, I really want to keep going with Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I'm thinking I may have to find a guide that I can follow that can help guide me a little bit, because I knew that full form unlock was next, and I knew roughly that I had to do something in order to get there. So like I step on a switch and then this whole new area opens up and I start going there, and I found like 3 different bosses, none of which were the boss that I thought I was supposed to come across. And they all killed me, and I never found like a save room down there. It was very painful. If I like knew where a save room was, that would really help.
The distribution of save rooms is pretty arbitrary, and it's sufficiently random that you don't even really get vibes as to where a save room might be.
Yeah.
And since you're just wandering around blind, yes, it can be very frustrating to open up a new area of the map and stumbled around for a while and hit the local boss before you hit the save area. They could have done a lot. They could have had a lot more teleportation rooms. They could have had a lot more save areas, even by the standards of 1997, and it wouldn't have been overboard. I completely agree. So judicious use of guide is definitely apropos, even independently of the fact that there's so much stuff to find. But one of the things that I'd completely forgotten about is that there's all the traditional stuff that every other Metroidvania does. You get the double jump. You get the dash.
Yeah.
You get the slide. You get the other things. Like, you learn how to go to low things. Like, he doesn't turn into a ball, but it's effectively the same. Like, it's all the same sort of stuff. But then, I didn't get to these in my replaying. I only played for a few hours. But I was reminded of all this incredibly outre weird stuff that Symphony of the Night pulls, because it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. Not in a sense of just like super strange stuff. I'm not suggesting that, this is when Alucard grows his third head and finds a way to leverage his new psychic abilities. No. It's not quite like that. But they find a way to keep introducing new gameplay wrinkles such that it's really quite stunning. And I don't even know if it's a spoiler. It's a 30-year-old game, Caitlin. I don't know. But I'm just going to lead into it. Whatever. Near the end of the game, you think you're done, and then you replay the entire castle upside down. What? And it's bonkers.
Okay.
It's wild. And I remember going through that the first time, and, you're kind of done, and maybe you are done, but not really. And then it's like, oh, no, now you're going to play through the castle upside down. And then you think, but wait, really? Are you just all the level? Everything I did before? You're just going to do it? Yes. The entire castle, upside down, just the same. But by that point, you've got so many movement abilities, you can traverse almost anything, but it's still so weird and strange. It looks great. It sounds great. The pacing's mediocre, but whatever. And there's so much stuff to go around and explore, and all undergirded by this really weird and good rogues gallery. And just enough role-playing bit nonsense. There's leveling up and different weapons and stuff. Whatever, that's definitely a backseat. Mostly, though, at the end of the day, the thing that really reminds me of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the thing that reminds me of the excellent experience, is just watching Alucard spend 27 frames recover from running. It's like, oh, I'm not running anymore. Oh, let's give another 5 frames to his cloak. Just give more 5 more frames to the cloak over there. Glorious. No notes.
You turn around and you see his like lovely hair just, moving with the movement of the air, and it's like, damn, that looks good.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily well done.
Yeah.
I was reminded, though, of a 30-year-old gripe that I have with Symphony of the Night.
What's that?
And that is, it is faster when you're just traversing a room and there are a number of empty rooms that you need to traverse. It is faster to backdash in reverse than it is to run going forward.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? It's super annoying to know that you can either do the goofy exploit or you can waste your time.
Yeah.
Now, most of the time I decide to waste my time, but just knowing that goofy exploit exists bothers me.
That's very upsetting, honestly.
Sorry.
Yeah, Alucard is not prone to moving quickly. He lumbers a bit.
A little bit, yeah. And he does a weird thing. The tempo of his jump is a little odd. He kind of like hangs at the apex of his jump in a way that took me a while to get used to again.
Also, it drives me crazy that I can't hit things like frogs. There's like larger toads or something, and those are fine. I can hit those. But then the really little frogs, I can't lean down and hit them. I have to like jump and stab down, and they're sticking their stupid little tongues out and hitting me for 10 damage. It's terrible. I hate them.
So many of the enemies are about hanging out in annoying places so you can't reach them, and then they stun lock you, and it's just a pain, and then you start getting frustrated. Yeah, a lot of this is part and parcel of Castlevania.
Oh, the invulnerability period after taking damage is surprisingly short for me. Like, not for me, but surprising for me how short it is. I feel like, at least in modern games, I'm used to being able to take a hit, and then I can get a hit in, like, roughly around when my invulnerability is fading. That is not at all the case in Symphony of the Night. I get hit, and then just as I'm recovering, I can get hit again, and it's like, oh, okay. I'm gonna get hit 3 times trying to hit this enemy once. Love it.
If you had a longer invulnerability period, then you wouldn't be able to be stun-locked, Caitlin, and then the game doesn't work.
Yep, that's true.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that you have some desire to go back to playing more Symphony of the Night. I think it is one of those classics that's aged pretty well. We'll get to some ways in which it's aged less well, I think, when we start talking about Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
But it very successfully instantiated a formula to near perfection, and they put a lot of effort into a lot of the things that count. And indeed, the fact that it wasn't 3D is one of the reasons why people still love playing it to this day. Because if they'd done it polygonally, it would have looked terrible.
Yeah. No, it's so funny how 95% of it is all 2D, and then you go into the library and there's these weird 3D polygon books that come out of a bookshelf and then try to attack you. Or you go to the save room and the weird 3D, I don't know, dodecahedron thing spins around and turns into a coffin. It's like, okay, yep, this is a PlayStation game. Thanks.
I have no idea if those were introduced to mollify Sony executives, but part of me hopes that they were.
Yeah. Because the rest of Symphony of the Night is so stylish, and those just stick out like sore thumbs to me, anyways.
So that was Castlevania Symphony of the Night. In Gaming Opinions on Old School Funware, we're going to momentarily pause for some ads. And we're back. And now, for our feature game, we're going to talk about Castlevania Symphony of the Night 2017 edition, aka Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is everyone's favorite game of all time, yours included, whether you know it or not. It is the game that everyone is playing in anticipation for the sequel that was never, ever, ever going to come out, but now is going to come out real soon, and then everyone will be playing that. It was by Team Cherry in 2017, and it is a Metroidvania. So, Caitlin,
yes.
Why don't you tell me about your experiences with Hollow Knight?
Okay, so in Hollow Knight, honestly, I don't know what the main character is, but it's a cute little beetle-adjacent character.
Yeah, you're a nameless bug.
And they arrive in this rundown, mostly empty town called Dirtmouth, which is atop the ruins of an ancient kingdom, Hollow Nest. Apparently, lots of people have gone into its depths and have never returned, and those that are down there are forgetting themselves, losing their minds, the whole thing. So naturally, you go in too, because why not? You're armed with your weapon, which is your needle. I assume
nail.
It's like nail. Sorry, not needle. Nail. Yes, your nail. Somebody else fights with a needle, I think. And you fight off the other insects below that are not quite right in the head anymore, and you rescue some of the ones that have been lost. I never played Hollow Knight before.
Oh,
yeah.
I assumed you had.
No. So this was my first time ever trying it. With Silksong coming, it seemed like a great time for it. Yeah, I don't know why I never did. It looked cute, it had a great sense of style, and I just never picked it up for whatever reason.
I know why I didn't play it earlier when I had access to it. It's for two reasons. Number one, I mentioned this before, I was unreasonably disappointed by the fact that your basic attack never changed. And at this point, I was knee-deep in games like Dead Cells, and I'd come from a background of Symphony of the Night, and I was used to just, the basic attack changing up and doing different things. This is such a minor thing. It's petty, and it's stupid, and it makes no sense. The other thing is that people kept comparing the storytelling to Dark Souls. It is very frequently lumped together with Dark Souls in terms of how it tells its story and the kind of story that it's telling. I do not like Dark Souls storytelling. I find it obtuse and uninteresting. The way I would characterize Dark Souls storytelling is as follows, and tell me if you think this is unfair. If you bother to read the text entries of all the random detritus that you pick up and scavenge or whatever, you'll hear legends of some king who went mad and became a dead god and turned into some weird plague dragon thousands of years ago. And then 2 levels later, you fight a giant dragon and it's the same dude. And then you're supposed to think, ooh, textured storytelling. Dark Souls is building a universe when really all I get is a whole bunch of bland text and then a dragon. Yeah. And that's fine. It works. But my bias is much towards character or event-driven storytelling rather than atmospherics. And so the atmospherics of Dark Souls never really worked for me.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, the storytelling of Hollow Knight doesn't work for me either. Like, as you say, there's this dead kingdom that used to be a big deal, and apparently there are legends that if you go there, you'll get riches or whatever you want. And so this nameless character, red flag number 1, for reasons unknown and unexplained, red flag number 2, goes into this dead kingdom, red flag number 3, and you see vestiges of past greatness, but nothing's going on now, and no one's doing it. Anyway, doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The Souls-like storytelling also doesn't really do it for me. I desperately want to know more. And when I really want to know more, and the only answer, at least in Dark Souls, is reading a whole bunch of stuff, that's not fun for me.
Yeah.
Hollow Knight, I didn't come across the tons of stuff you have to read in order to understand what's going on bit. But still, very atmospheric storytelling, you kind of, either you figure stuff out or you get kind of a gist by seeing certain scenes. But it's not, there's no characters telling you, this big, long story of exactly what happened. And, at least I haven't beaten it. So maybe you get that, I don't know. But at least where I'm at, it's very much kind of figure stuff out as you go along. And hopefully you learn stuff eventually. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't finished it either. I'm only a few hours in, and very much like your comment about Symphony of the Night, my total playtime and my linear playtime are both very different in a variety of ways. And look, if you prefer vibes to storytelling, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, then absolutely games like Hollow Knight and Dark Souls are for you. But I remember, for example, and this objection even arises in dialogue-heavy games as well. I remember in Mass Effect Andromeda, one of the early moments is you're talking to the Solarian administrator who talks about all the things that happened to the first space station that they set up and all the trials and tribulations and all the infighting and the Civil War and the privations they had. And he just lays it out in, I don't know, what felt like a particularly significant dialogue dump. I mean, we love BioWare games, but they have dialogue dumps.
Yeah.
And the entire time I was thinking, could I have not done that? Could that have been the game? Could I have been doing that instead of you just telling me about it? And then, of course, this sensation amplified considerably as I was then forced to do the unendurable penance that is playing Mass Effect Andromeda. But anyway, setting all that aside. So when games want to lay out a whole bunch of things that happened thousands of years before I as a player showed up, I'm like, oh, okay, sure, that's the game? That's not the backdrop to the game, that's the game? Stuff that happened thousands of years ago? Fine.
Yeah.
And so I get that it's really good at selling an atmosphere, and the graphics of Hollow Knight are very good at selling an atmosphere, much like the graphics of Dark Souls. Just doesn't do it for me. That having been said, and this is a huge caveat, Hollow Knight is weapons-grade adorable much of the time. You meet these lost worms that you have to free, And they make these, it's kind of like beaker noises all the time. There's no voice anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the close cousin of Ted the accountant delivering bad dialogue. Instead, what you have is Susie down from the engineering department making cute animal noises into a microphone, and it's adorable.
Yep.
Did you encounter, I assume you encountered the miner in Hollow Knight.
Yes.
The section where there's crystals and the little miner's working away, and the miner explains the miner likes to sing a little song while they work, and it's all great.
That was delightful.
So adorable. I could not get over how cute so many of the characters were.
Yeah.
Even the enemies are usually reasonably cute. Not as adorable as the ones that actually talk.
Yeah.
Your fast travel is this gruff-sounding, very large bug who's also kind of cute in its own way. All that stuff I really liked. Yep. If they'd taken those tools and decided to tell a slightly more conventional story, I probably would have been sucked in and never seen the other side of it until it was done. But these are just people who are invested, like, they're all just archaeologists. They're all just archaeologists doing archaeology without the benefit of Nazis trying to steal the Ark of the Covenant from them. And so, consequently, I just feel that the story is literally dead.
Oh. I guess I definitely see where you're coming from on that. For me, I still love kind of coming across like these, small, beautiful scenes, and like that's what keeps me going in Hollow Knight. Is just kind of seeing like, oh, what's over here?
Sure. I get some of that, but honestly, from level to level, the visuals are mostly the same. It's like, this is the slightly greener section. This is the slightly redder section. I mostly derive the delight from finding new cute side characters, but that's just a drop in the bucket compared to what you're mostly doing. And the boss encounters are cool. Like, the bosses are very well rendered in terms of visuals and attack patterns. And the core combat is super, super simple, but super, super tight.
Yes.
And I do appreciate that a great deal. That helps a lot.
Yeah, I started Hollow Knight thinking, oh man, is this what my attack's gonna be the entire time? And I'm not super far either. I'm just a few hours in, but I'm really like learning how to deal with all these different types of enemies in different ways. I love that you can very easily attack up or you can attack down. Like, you can kind of bounce off some of those knights when they're, holding their shields up. All of that just feels really, really good.
Combat is extraordinarily well done. It is far more difficult than a lot of other Metroidvanias in a lot of ways. Like, the Metroid games didn't tend to be particularly hard from room to room, but Hollow Knight does, again, like Dark Souls, the whole thing where if you die, you're a little bit weaker until you get back to the place where you died. Although, frankly, I found that element to be not particularly challenging. It's usually pretty simple to get back. Unless you're, again, very far away from a save point, and you have to trek back all over Hell's Half Acre to get back to where you were. Which, it's just part, like, playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night and Hollow Knight during the same week, it's like, oh yeah, here we go. I have to get... Alright, I finished that dead end. Now look at the map. Okay, maybe my new traversal ability gets me over there. Let's go. And the big beetle will take me as far as the big beetle can, but there's only so far that dude can go.
Yeah.
Oh, the backtracking.
Yep, there's definitely a lot of that. I was getting a little bit tired of it by the time I unlocked my dash ability and unlocked the first, like, beetle fast travel thing. And that helped kind of reinvigorate me. Just having the ability to actually move around a little bit more quickly, being able to traverse certain gaps was really nice. Here's a contrast between Castlevania Symphony of the Night and Hollow Knight. Dying in Castlevania Symphony of the Night meant, I have to wait for the whole, like, Alucard death animation to happen, and then very slowly, like, the game over screen fades in, and it needs me to stare at that for, like, 10 seconds before it goes back to the start screen. I really appreciated in Hollow Knight how it's just snappy. Like, oh, I'm dead, okay, I'm back at the bench, and I'm not going to lose anything if I just get back there and collect my souls / money. I really like that.
And also, to circle back to a conversation we had before, hits in Hollow Knight have a bit of weight to them, have a little bit of impact. You don't have the sort of stun lock nonsense. When you get hit, the screen kind of darkens and focuses in on your character, and you get this weird kind of muffled noise, which rather than making it difficult to tell what's going on, it amplifies the sense that you've just been smacked in the face real hard.
Yes.
And I very much appreciate that. You're never lost on what hit you and how in Hollow Knight, and even though you only have the one basic attack, when you hit things, it has a sense of weight because there's knockback. If you hit a stationary object, you'll get knocked back. If you hit a normal enemy, you'll both be knocked back a little bit. If you hit something shield, it feels a lot different than if you hit them when they're not shielded. It's just, it's, as I say, it's very, very simple. It's a very simple formula, but it's extraordinarily well executed and focused.
Yes, absolutely. Talking about hitting the shield, like there are those tall knights that will hold a shield up above their head, and I just loved bouncing off of them. Like, attack and then I bounce, attack and then I bounce. And then they dash backward and they hit me and I'm like, oh, dang it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not my favorite. But yeah, that just combat feels really good.
And the regen system is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
You build up these souls by attacking things, and you can use them for some attacks you unlock later, or for healing that's unlocked from the start. So it doesn't feel attritional like Castlevania does. Castlevania, it's like, I've got full health at save state. Can I get to the next save state before I die?
Yes.
Here, it's more a question of encouraging aggression, rewarding killing these enemies, even though you're just backtracking, so as to be able to keep your health up.
Yes.
And it's just a really well done balance. And it also leads to the primary challenge of a lot of the boss fights, which is, when can you spend the time to get your health back?
Yes.
Which, if you're me, I will wait just long enough to confirm that it's safe to get my health back, thereby guaranteeing that I miss my window to get my health back.
Yep. During the boss fight with Hornet, I had a couple of those where at first, like, oh, she's down, I'm gonna go get her. And then I was like, oh, wait, I should have healed. Okay, next time. I'm like, okay, is she going to stay? She's going to stay down? Okay, I'll start healing, and she's back. Okay.
That boss fight, I'm not going to say I'm not going to play Silksong, but any enthusiasm I might have had for jumping straight to Silksong was killed by the obnoxiousness of her killing me all those times.
Oh, no. It actually made me more hyped up for it. I was like, excited.
Okay. It's like, I'm not going to play her game. She's mean. She kills me.
She's mean. So, okay. I thought it was a little strange at the very beginning of Hollow Knight where you don't have a map, and then you get a map, and then it's like, okay, but you don't know where you are on the map. Tee-hee-hee. Have to go buy a compass. Because as soon as you buy the compass, then it's normal. It's like, okay, you know exactly where you are. I mean, you know the general area of where you are, at least what room and like what part of the room. I like that you can buy markers, so you can like put a mark on the map where you're like, oh, I think I need a double jump to do this. You can't label them in any way, so you just kind of have to have your own system in your head that you hopefully remember by the time you get back there. But other than the fact that you have to buy the compass, I like the map thing a lot. I like that there's actually, I have a caveat there too. But I like that you get the map from the map maker, and you'll have a gist of what the area is like. And then as you explore it, you'll add to the map every time you take a rest. I think that's really cool. It's confusing to me that your map abilities suddenly fail when you get to a new area, and you have to wait for the map maker to give you his started map before you can add to it. And it's like, no. I've been adding to this other map. Why couldn't I just add this room too?
I like how the map works in-game. I hate everything leading up to that point.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that you have to buy all these individual components to make the map system work. I hate the fact that sometimes the game lets you fill in the map and sometimes it doesn't. I hate that sometimes you're just wandering in the middle of darkness. And it's not like the map is ever super, super detailed at the best of times. So I don't know why it decides to deprive me of that whenever I'm in a new room.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's there, I think the map is at a great level of detail.
Yeah.
And works fabulously. Just why does it parcel it out so parsimoniously? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit weird. It's not a design decision that I completely understand.
So echoing your comments about Symphony of the Night, I'm definitely inclined to keep going back to Hollow Knight. The problem is that I don't feel this way immediately after dying. But it definitely comes and goes. But I might start making judicious use of guides just to point me about where to go next. Because again, in all of these Metroidvanias, here I am, I've unlocked, I think I've explored all there is to do, and I've hit the dead end, and now I have 6 parts of my map that I know are things that can be circumvented by various abilities. I just can't remember which one's which.
Yeah.
And I'd like to be pointed in the right direction. And with that, I'm curious to spend more time in the world just because of some of the visual elements and just because of how cute so many of the little bug cameos are.
Yeah.
I hold out the hope that it's possible that at some point the world itself is going to start feeling compelling to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it hasn't thus far doesn't mean that it's impossible. I have my doubts. But I'd like to give Hollow Knight a little bit more rope because it is clearly an extraordinarily well done game.
Yeah.
And even though the formula hasn't changed a whole lot in the 30 years, it's nonetheless refined very nicely in Hollow Knight.
Yes. Completely agree with that. Oh, man. What was I going to say?
Was it?
Oh, the dialogue is so cute. It was not.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's okay.
So that's Hollow Knight by Team Cherry. The game that everyone is playing or has played already or both.
Yes.
And soon Silksong will be the same, and I'll probably give it another, almost 10 years before I bother to play it. So we're going to move on to some shameless hyping of upcoming titles. Caitlin, what would you like to shout out for us?
Today, I'm going to shout out Resident Evil Requiem. I haven't played a Resident Evil game since 5, so it's been a long time. But I'm kind of jazzed about this one because it's a return to Raccoon City, and I played all of the Raccoon City games very excitedly. Like, played, Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica. So I am really looking forward to seeing what this is like. I've seen some, little complaints about like, the main character acts so scared. That's weird. It's like, that's okay. She doesn't need to be a hardened soldier. Like, I assume that she will get used to it and eventually, be at least somewhat of a badass. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to Resident Evil Requiem coming out next year.
Do you know what is a strange possibility?
What?
That next year, both Resident Evil and Silent Hill will have quality new entrants, and the Silent Hill protagonist is the badass, and the Resident Evil protagonist is the one that is visibly terrified.
Yes. That would be a interesting swap.
I would like to give a shout out to Runa. Runa is a game that was successfully kickstarted by Fennec. I say successfully kickstarted because they got the money they wanted, and that's what successful crowdfunding looks like. As far as an actual product is concerned, they say maybe by the end of next year, who knows? So suffice to say, I'm not holding my breath. Runa is a tactical RPG with relationship elements. Yay!
Nice.
Game for Mark. Varlet came out not too long ago. That's a game I shouted out not too long ago.
Yes.
I'm probably going to give it a try. My expectations are very low, both for Varlet and for Runa, because the thing I keep forgetting, Caitlin, is that there's this vast universe of JRPGs and JRPG adjacent things. Literally too many for anyone to play. Mm-hmm. And if your jam is aggressively mediocre JRPGs of a certain type, you're set for life based on the offerings of any given calendar year. Yeah. There are companies that have done nothing but churn out 50, 100-hour-long JRPGs that you've never heard of, and that their fans will obsessively talk about. And I didn't quite anticipate that Varlet was from one of those companies, right? It's like a paradigmatic example of this is like Nihon Falcon, right? They've done so many games, there's a billion of them, and most quote-unquote mainstream gamers maybe have heard of a couple.
Okay.
But there's so much there. There's an endless sea of this stuff. So, and all this to say, I'm going to be trying Varlet soon, and I am looking forward to Runa. Maybe it will exist someday. I say this about companies. Runa is being crowdfunded by a new developer, so this doesn't apply to them necessarily. But sometimes I worry that it exhibits the same kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's exciting. I would be extremely surprised if it came out in the next 2 years. But
yes. As I said, not holding my breath.
Yes.
So that's going to do it for this week. For All My Best Friends Are Digital, thank you so much for joining us. If you are interested in supporting free media, you can find us on Patreon. You can find all kinds of bonus content and the ability to direct our future endeavors, as well as, I think, our underappreciated newsletter where we talk about follow-ups and all these games that we talk about. That's patreon.com/ambfad. But in any case, whether you support us or not, that's fine. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, you can reach us at allmybestfriendsareddigital@gmail.com. Hope to see you again soon.